Het geld wordt uiteindelijk door mannen verdiend. Vrouwen willen in verzorgende beroepen werken, bij de overheid, in de zorg en onderwijs. Dat is allemaal prima, is ook heel erg nodig. Neem de quote 500 er maar eens bij. Er staat eigenlijk niet één vrouw op die haar eigen geld verdiend heeft. Ja, van papi, geërfd of met hun vent.
There's this video going around on social media of this Dutch journalist who says that there's no women in the quote 500 who have not made their fortune without the help of daddy or their husband's money. And we need to discuss this, not him specifically because we don't care about him, but we do care about the argument that he makes because this is something that has been used against women for decades. To a lot of people on the surface, his argument kind of is reasonable because basically it is saying, well, yeah, you keep saying that women are great, then why are they not more represented in rankings like the quote 500? So I want to go through it because the second that you look at the actual numbers, the whole thing, the whole essence of that argument kind of falls apart. So let's go through it calmly, mostly calmly. This is so annoying and we're just over it. Let's start with playing his game for a second, right? Let's take his little test of did you really earn it or did it come from your family? And let's point it at men because he very carefully doesn't do that. And I think I know why. Globally, about a third of billionaires did not earn their own money. They inherited at least part of it. And in Europe is even worse. In countries like Germany, Belgium, only 25 to 26% of billionaires are self-made, meaning that 3 out of 4 people got it from family or married into it. So across most of Europe, the majority of billionaire money is just old money being passed down, and that includes the men. And this is also the case for a lot of the wealthy people that are mentioned on the quote 500. So the argument that he made about women not having made the money themselves, that counts for everyone. And actually, Quote Magazine hit back at the comments of the journalists with the receipts. They pointed out that a lot of the women on that list who maybe did inherit part of the business then skilled it up themselves under their own leadership. Some of those companies weren't even big enough for the quote 500 before. They only made the list because a woman took over leadership and skilled them to the extent that they could be now a quote 500 company. And others added hundreds of millions in revenue under the female leadership. So this purity test that he's aiming at women, a massive chunk of the richest men on the planet would fill it instantly. So then he moves to the bigger argument, which is basically women just pick the wrong jobs. They pick care, they pick teaching, government, the soft stuff. And men, they choose finance and tech, the money stuff. Those are all free choices. So let's talk about that because first on the numbers part, even if you take choice completely at face value and you say, okay, yeah, that's all free choice, occupation only explains a minority of the pay gap, right? Claudia Golden, she won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2023 for this exact work. She found that choice of occupation explains somewhere between 10 and 30% of the pay gap. So best case scenario, only a third of the pay gap can be explained with the fact that women traditionally going into different occupations, which means that most of the pay gap is not about the job that you pick at all. It's coming from a whole bunch of other more societal things. And that's very different than the story he's been telling, which is, yeah, women are not picking money-making occupations and they have to. But honestly, the bigger thing is this whole idea that it's a free choice at all, because is it? If we think about it for a second, why does every little boy want to be a football player? It's not in his DNA. It's because he turns on the TV and every single person doing the thing he's told to look up to looks like him. That's it. That's representation. We become what we see. And the girls get the exact opposite of that from basically day one. Parents, teachers, career advisors, they nudge. A girl says she likes science, gets pointed towards nursing. Boy says the exact same thing, gets pointed towards engineering. And there's proof that none of this is natural because the second that you show girls an actual woman doing the so-called boy job, one role model, their interest goes up and the stereotype drops. If this stuff was really inherent, a single example would not move the needle, but it does. And you cannot talk about any of this without the history because it does not start from a neutral place. Not that long ago, women literally could not open a bank account or get credit in their own name without a man co-signing for them. That is not medieval times. That is our grandmothers, and that stuff compounds because fewer women with money become fewer women starting businesses or becoming professional football players. And that again leads to fewer women getting at the top, fewer women as athletes, which becomes fewer role models for the next girls watching. And round it goes straight into today. So when a man says that women inherently gravitate towards the caring job, it's not true. They don't end up there by nature. They get pushed there and it starts in childhood. They pick up the stereotypes without even noticing, and the adults around them quietly steer them that way as well, and they start doubting themselves even when they're just as capable as the boys. Then let's talk about his little solution to all of this, and honestly the solution of most people who use this narrative, which is basically just go build a big company, go study at the technical university, take the job, take the jump, be brave women, just do it. As if the only thing between women and a global conglomerate is a bit more guts. The real problem, you cannot build a giant company on hard work alone. You need capital, actual money. And that's the part that is genuinely rigged. Companies founded only by women get around 2% of all venture capital. 2% globally, and in Europe it's even less than that. So we're out here telling women to go build the empire, and then we're handing them 2% of the funding to go do it with. And before anyone jumps in with maybe those companies are just not as good, there is a Harvard study where they put identical pitches in front of investors. So it's the same exact pitch, word for word, one read by a woman's voice and one by a man's voice. 70% preferred the man, and the pitch was the exact same thing. And it's not even like the money's wasted on women, because companies founded by women actually bring in more revenue per dollar invested than the ones founded by men. This is all statistically backed up. So the market is literally leaving money on the table just to avoid backing women. And big companies aren't missing because women didn't try. They're missing because the money to build them keeps being withheld from women. But okay, even if all of that, the funding, the confidence, the sorting, all of that isn't even the biggest thing, because the biggest thing, the thing that is being skipped completely by all of these men who have this narrative, is who's doing all of the invisible work. Women do about 1.5 times the unpaid care work that men do. In the Netherlands, where this great journalist is from, that's 26 hours a week versus 17 hours for men. 26 hours. That's basically a whole second part-time job that nobody sees and nobody pays for. And it has to come out of somewhere. So it comes out of your paid hours, your career, your appetite for risk, and your rest, which is exactly why in some countries like the Netherlands, 75% of working women work part-time versus only 25% of men. And you cannot build a global conglomerate on 26 hours a week while also running an entire household. That is not a mystery. That is just math. And this is the part that I really need people who still think like him to hear. It is not a free choice. Nearly 8 out of 10 women working part-time say they would work more if the conditions were actually there, if childcare was affordable, if the school hours lined up with an actual job. There are over 200,000 people in the Netherlands specifically with no paid job at all because of care duties. And 86% of those people are women. And even the couples who genuinely do want to split everything 50-50, they often just can't because the whole system isn't built for it. Again, backed up by statistics. So when he says just take the risk, just start the business, just jump, he forgets that risk requires a safety net. And women are the ones who have to stay employable, stay liquid, be able to drop everything the second the kid gets sick, precisely because they're carrying a care load that men mostly aren't. And you cannot ask someone to sprint and jump hurdles while they're wearing a backpack that the other runner handed them and then act all shocked that they're a little bit behind. Honestly, all of this is still just the tip of the iceberg, because none of what I just said even touches the fact that the money at the very top has been growing and getting passed down for 200 years, during basically all of which women were locked out of nearly all of it. That actually is the real scam of what he said. He pointed out the quote 500, which is the top 500, the most extreme, tippy top till of wealth in the whole country. And that's the one place shaped the most by inheritance, by old boy networks, by who knows who. It's the exact spot where centuries of women being shut out show up the loudest. And he used that as his proof that sexism isn't the issue. That's the crime scene. You're standing at the crime scene going, see, there's no crime here. So no, the real money is not just earned by men. The real money has been guarded by a system that gave men a couple centuries head start, handed everyone else about 2% of the funding, and piled an extra shift of unpaid work on top. And the reason I actually get fired up about this is not to just be mad on the internet, I promise. It's because the exact story the whole you chose wrong, you just didn't try hard enough thing, that's the thing that keeps women small. It takes a whole system and turns it into your own personal little failing, when actually it's the system. And a system you can learn to work around. That's the entire reason that this whole YouTube channel exists. So if this made you a little bit angry too, good. Use it. Educate yourself on building wealth. And if you need support for that within a space that is specifically designed for women, then check out the link in the description for a 7-day free trial of my financial education platform, Rich Girl Academy, and subscribe because we're going to keep going, and I will see you in the next one.